Hello everyone. It is time for my SDL Season 15 draft recap. SDL's back, so I'll be back making content at least for the swamp. Um, and my first pick was Big Iron Valiant, but you might be unfamiliar with what the swamp's motif, what the swamp is all about. In at least the last few seasons, we've been doing this sort of draft board with all these insane things. There are no Tera bans, so Chien-Pao can Tera, Dragapult can Tera, Dragonite can Tera, Ogerpon can Tera, Roaring Moon can Tera. I said Ogerpon, kind of weird there, but yeah. So all those guys can Tera. My Iron Valiant can Tera. You get 2 Tera caps, and their points have to be 30 or less. So yeah, theoretically, my Iron Valiant can Tera if I decide to Tera it, and this top 4 mons here, plus I think you can see 20 a little bit as well, should sort of give you an idea of what the feel of this draft league will be. There's just going to be a lot of really broken mons allowed, but there's also a pretty tight budget you can see here. Only 110 points, which definitely makes the drafting process harder because we can't get 9 mons. We have to have 10. So the drafting process, I feel, is extremely important in this league compared to like what you would normally see in most leagues. I think there's a lot more condensed power levels. I think there's just really good mons allowed compared to the rest. Like if you take a look at Tera Chien-Pao, Tera Dragonite, or Tera Ogerpon, and then we come over here and we look at what's in 16, which is normally like either the 3rd highest or the 5th highest point value allowed. You know, normally you're going to be at 18 or maybe up to 20, right? So normally these guys would be the 3rd or 5th highest, but they don't even really compare to what's in the maximum point tier. So I think that's just important to give you context on what's allowed and why I did certain things and just how good my draft is going to be in your opinion. So we're back here, and I think I should just talk about Iron Valiant a little bit. I mean, we all know, I think, sort of what he does. Iron Valiant was my first round pick. I picked 6th, so there were actually a couple 25 pointers left. I didn't really want any of them. I think I would rather use Valiant than the ones that were left, and there were some other 24 pointers as well, like Zamazenta was not taken. Obviously, there were a lot of 23 pointers left as well. But I decided Valiant was going to be the way. I don't know if Valiant is game changing enough. It just doesn't do anything like super duper insane. Like, it's not dealing insane damage like Chien-Pao. It doesn't have insane setup, sweep potential like Dragonite or Roaring Moon. And then it's not like as jack of all tradesy as Dragapult in terms of Dragapult can set up and sweep. It can be a pretty good breaker, and then obviously it has great utility with its speed stat. But Valiant does have really insane versatility and just the moves that it can click. Like, it's just, you're not going to get a better move pool than what Valiant has. Valiant can obviously be an insane setup sweeper as well with SD, Calm Mind. So I think I'm perfectly fine with taking this. I don't know if it's the 4th best mon or something like that, but I was pretty okay with taking it and it being the cornerstone of the team. And then when it came back to me, I decided to pick up Landorus. I just think Landorus is really solid, and I showed you that the points are going to be really tight in this league, in this draft. So I decided to pick up Landorus because it's just a solid mon, man. Like, I'm going to click Earthquake and Stealth Rock every game, and having a good ground type is really good, but it also gives you good utility in terms of pivoting, just because it come in on so much and forces so much out thanks to its power. Yeah, I just thought Landorus was a really good mon. I don't know if it's necessarily great to pair with Iron Valiant, since Iron Valiant a lot of times just wants to come in and it's either gonna win or die before it switches. At least with all the booster sets, I think. But I still think Landorus is just a really good mon. And then I paired Landorus with Hydreigon. Now, originally, this was Archualadon. I don't know how to say that guy. But originally it was that. I ended up dropping that guy for Hydreigon and Grace. So we're going to talk about my final team after the Grace period, where I dropped a bunch of stuff. And it wasn't that much. I dropped like 3 guys. But I thought Hydreigon was a really cool pairing with Landorus and Valiant. Obviously, Hydreigon and Valiant, thanks to its fighting moves, are both going to sort of force some similar checks in, like Fairy types, and then Valiant is also going to force in Steel types with its Fairy moves, maybe. I just think they have cool synergy in that way. And then obviously I needed a good breaker for maybe Valiant later, something to soften them up for Valiant. And I thought Hydreigon was a really interesting mon to do that. It also provides me with another pivot Pokemon, setup threat, huge breaker with Draco Meteor and Dark Pulse. So I liked pairing it a lot with Lando there. And I really like the speed stats that we have going here. Obviously, we have Valiant, which is insanely fast, plus the booster. Basically, it's got infinite speed, so I'm not worried about top-end speed really at all. But filling out my other speed tiers here, this is basically probably the base 100-ish guy. And then this is guy under that, which I'm pretty happy with. And then next up, we got Big Rotom. So Rotom, once again, yet another big pivoter that just has a really insane amount of utility. Volt Switch obviously is the main move that we're going to click, but I really like Nasty Plot Rotom. All the Rotoms I like to click Nasty Plot with. They have just strong moves, and just often thanks to the electric move plus the coverage move that they get, they're good breakers sometimes, man. And then obviously Rotom has a lot more other utility in terms of status with T-Wave, Willow, and then Trick as well. So yeah, I really like Rotom Wash a lot here, and I went with a really heavily pivot based team because I think that's going to be a better way to play it than trying to go like a full balance squad, because you're not going to check you're not going to have viable checks most weeks. I feel like you're not going to have a viable real check to Chien-Pao or Dragonite or Rory Moon, you know what I'm saying. So I think going to heavily pivoted pivot based sort of draft is just going to help you try to outposition those squads instead of trying to straight up check them. Then I was like, all right, we need some defoggers, and I probably breached getting Decidueye this early, but I was like, I want a mon that is just gonna be able to defog. I needed something. I decided to go with Decidueye. Maybe there was better options at the time, but I think Decidueye is decent. Got defog, another pivot guy, and it has decent attack stats. You can go either one, and it does have a rough defense stat, but it's not super necessary as a ground resist on this team, which is why I'm a little bit more okay with taking it, because we have the Rotom and the Lando and the Hydreigon all as immunities to ground moves, so I don't mind not having the super high defense. I actually think if there's a team that Decidueye could fit on, it would be this one, since we don't have to have Decidueye switching in to Earthquakes. And then yeah, like I said, mostly here to click defog. Next up we got Sizz. So Sizz I was picking up to be my Steel type because I thought I was going to trade Archualadon for another Dragon type named Kyurem. That didn't happen. But what we did do is we decided to keep Scizor because it gives me another breaker, dedicated super breaker. Because I mean, let's be real, Scizor in Gen 9, you're running Choice Band or Life Orb, brother. There's not a lot of other things that you're running. Obviously SD happens, but I feel like that's usually what I see. And then also, it does give me another defogger. I don't think Scizor is going to be clicking that very often, but it's nice to have that option. And yeah, Scizor is just a good mon. Also another pivot mon. So we're switching, brother. And I just enjoy it on the team because also we don't actually have the only other Fire Root mon we have is Decidueye, and then we have 2 resistances and Lando T to kill Fire Mons. So it's not like Scizor is gonna be super taken advantage of or something like that on my team. I don't think. And we needed a. I feel like I wanted another Dragon Resist because Valiant is obviously a great fairy type, but it's not something like you want to be switching in straight into Dragon moves or anything like that. Not that Sizz wants to either, since a lot of dragons are going to have fire coverage, but that extra steel type is good. Next up, we got Tauros. I thought Tauros was good. Really not much more to it. I thought it was the best fire type available. That also gave me some extra speed. And it just gives me a little bit more utility when I'm building each week, which is really all you can ask for. I think I tried to throw together just a bunch of good mons that would hopefully work well together with all the pivoting and stuff like that. Also gives me another Intimidator, so I have double Intimidate, which is good. That's going to hopefully help cushion me against some of the bigger, like, Qian Pao, D-Knight, Roaring Moon type of guys with the double Intimidate. And then I decided to pick up Hoopa next. Hoopa is going to be my other Tera captain, which obviously means Iron Valiant is my Tera captain. Hoopa I got for 5 points. So, and Iron Valiant was 24, so that's 29. So we're chilling in terms of that. And Hoopa's the other Tera cap. I just thought, well, really, my brother, my guy Dylan, said, yo, Hoopa might be him. Hoopa might be it. And I was looking at the stats, and I was like, holy shit, he might be right. Hoopa might be him. Because 150 and 110 attacking stats is pretty crazy, and then you just get to get rid of like your shitty typing and get a better one with Tera. And I was like, yeah, I think you're cooking. Like, I think this is a pretty good secondary Tera captain for like a low point value that you can use as an extra breaker. Like, I actually think this has my highest attacking stat on the team at 150. If I recall, I think Landers is second with the 145, obviously. But yeah, it gives me another breaker, and that feels really good because now I'm like, oh, I have Landers, Hydreigon, and this, and Scizor, and like even Rotom sometimes, right? But yeah, this feels like one of the best, like 5-pointer-ish, one of the best low-tier Teras. Probably behind Iron Thorn still, but it's one of the best low-tier Teras, I think. Then I had my guy Oren Latios pick this for me because I was like, all right, I don't know what to pick. I'm busy. Let me see what he picks me up. And we got Munchlax. And honestly, looking at the stats, Munchlax could come. Munchlax can come to a game. I can see it. I didn't have a normal. And at that point, I didn't have a dark either because I didn't have a Hydreigon on the team. So we pick up Munchlax, and Munchlax is the guy to switch into Ghost moves at the time. That's obviously Hydreigon, but Munchlax can definitely still come to some games. And then finally, rounding out the squad, Big Muck. What can really be said about Muck that hasn't been said? I think Muck is really good for like a low tier poison. It can check almost all the fairy types in the game with its nice big SpDef stat and a decent attack stat to do damage to them. Obviously, looking at the move pool, it's pretty nasty, brother, with Knock, Gunk, Poison Jab, Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Drain Punch. It's pretty nasty, and normal Muck gets T-Spike, whereas Alolan Muck does not. And adding that extra dimension, because Muck is like definitely a mon that I can bring to games, right? And having that extra dimension of T-Spike is just nice to have, you know, put it in my opponent's head, make them think about it. Obviously, we also have other moves like Haze. We saw Acid Armor. I don't know if I'm ever clicking that, but it just has a really nice move pool. So as a low tier poison to absorb T-Spikes and check fairy types, I just think it's really, really good at that. So yeah, I think that is the squad. Overall, I feel pretty happy with it. You can see it here all in its glory. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know if we have like the super threat like some of the other teams do in terms of like Roaring Moon, D-Knight, Ogerpon, but I do think we have one of the more well-rounded teams with like a bunch of good mons. Like, I could see myself bringing almost all of these except for maybe Munchlax, but even Munchlax is semi-bringable. So I do not hate it. But with that, I think that is enough for this draft recap. 15 minutes seems like plenty to me. So, stay tuned for the battles.